Welcome to Vision Vibes, where we bring history, science, and the world to your screens. Today, we're diving into one of the most catastrophic events of the 20th century, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. It's a tale of human ambition, unprecedented disaster, and lasting consequences. We'll guide you through the scale of the disaster, the precautions that were taken, and the causes that led to such a devastating event. We'll walk you through the fateful day when the world was reminded of the destructive potential of nuclear power. We'll explore the immediate aftermath, the global impact, and the long-term effects of this disaster. And finally, we'll discuss the legacy of Chernobyl, a chilling reminder of the power humanity wields and the responsibility that comes with it. So, buckle up and join us on this comprehensive exploration of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. But before we begin, make sure you've subscribed to our channel and turned on notifications so you won't miss any of our educational videos. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Vision Vibes. Today we're breaking down the details of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the goals we aim to achieve, and the subsequent implications on the global stage. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up if you're ready to explore this multifaceted journey with us. Now, imagine an explosion so powerful, it releases 400 times more radioactive material than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Picture a cataclysmic event, spewing a radioactive cloud over vast swaths of Europe, contaminating the air, water, and soil with lethal radiation. Combine these images, and you start to grasp the scale of the Chernobyl disaster. This was no ordinary nuclear mishap, it far outstripped any before it, causing a seismic shift in our understanding of nuclear power's destructive potential. The immediate aftermath saw countless deaths, acute radiation sickness, while the long-term effects resulted in thousands suffering from cancer and a host of other health issues. Entire cities abandoned, ecosystems disrupted, and wildlife populations decimated. The very fabric of life in and around Chernobyl was altered forever. The impact was so profound, it shook the global perception of nuclear power, leading many nations rethink their energy policies and safety protocols. This is the story of the Chernobyl disaster, the worst nuclear accident in history, and its devastating and enduring impacts on human health, the environment, and the world's perspective on nuclear power. Despite the catastrophic outcome that we now know as the Chernobyl disaster, it's essential to understand that precautions were indeed taken before the event. These precautions, while ultimately insufficient, were based on the knowledge and understanding of nuclear power at the time. The RBMK reactor, for instance, was a design considered safe and efficient, based on the era's technological capabilities. It was designed to produce both plutonium for weapons and electricity for civilian use, a dual purpose that was highly valued during the Cold War period. At the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant, safety protocols were in place, although they were not as stringent as they are today. These protocols included regular maintenance checks, emergency response drills, and safety training for the plant's personnel. The plant was also equipped with safety systems designed to shut down the reactor in the event of a significant malfunction. These safety systems were meant to prevent a reactor meltdown and the subsequent release of radioactive materials into the environment. One of these safety measures was the very safety test that ironically led to the disaster. The test was intended to determine how the reactor would respond to a power outage, with the goal of improving the reactor's safety systems. It was designed to simulate a loss of electrical power to the plant, and the response was expected to provide valuable data to enhance the reactor's safety mechanisms. Regrettably, these precautions were not enough to prevent the disaster. The combination of the reactor's design flaws, the decision to run the safety test at a low power level, and the disabling of critical safety systems led to a catastrophic failure. This highlights the need for more stringent safety measures and strict adherence to safety protocols in nuclear power plants. The Chernobyl disaster serves as a grim reminder that when dealing with nuclear power, there can be no room for error or complacency. The Chernobyl disaster was not an event born out of the blue. It was a result of a deadly cocktail of engineering flaws and human error. Let's delve into the factors that led to this catastrophic event. Firstly, we have to understand the design of the RBMK reactor used at Chernobyl. The RBMK was a type of nuclear reactor that used graphite as a moderator and water as a coolant. This combination was problematic because it made the reactor inherently unstable at low power levels. Moreover, the RBMK design lacked some crucial safety features, such as a containment structure to prevent the release of radioactive materials in the event of an accident. The second factor was the decision to carry out a safety test at low reactor power levels. The plant's operators had been instructed to conduct a test to assess how long the turbines could supply power to the main circulating pumps, following a loss of main electrical power supply. The test was meant to be carried out at full power, but due to a delay, it was decided to run the test at a lower power level. This was a fatal mistake. The reactor was not designed to operate under these conditions, and it led the reactor to a dangerously unstable state. In addition, several safety systems were intentionally disabled to carry out this test, leaving the reactor even more vulnerable to mishaps. Among these was the emergency core cooling system, a critical safety system designed to cool the reactor in the event of a loss of coolant accident. Lastly, the reactor did not have a containment structure. Most nuclear reactors around the world are encased in a robust containment structure, designed to contain the spread of radioactive materials in the event of a disaster. The lack of such a structure at Chernobyl meant that when the reactor exploded, there was nothing to stop the radioactive materials from being released directly into the atmosphere. These factors, along with a lack of safety culture and poor decision-making, created the perfect storm that led to the world's worst nuclear disaster. The Chernobyl disaster was a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power if not handled with the utmost care and respect for its destructive potential. On April 26, 1986, a series of catastrophic events unfolded at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant in Pripyat, Ukraine. This was not just another day at the facility. The plant's management had decided to conduct a safety test on the reactor number 4. The test was designed to assess how long the turbines would spin and supply power to the main circulating pumps, following a loss of main electrical power supply. This would have been a routine procedure if executed correctly. However, on that fateful day, things didn't go as planned. The plant's operators decided to carry out the test at low reactor power levels, a condition that the reactor was not designed to operate under. This decision, coupled with the disabling of several safety systems, set the stage for a catastrophe. As the test began, power levels fell dangerously low, causing the reactor to become unstable. The operators, unaware of the impending danger, proceeded with the test. To their horror, when they tried to increase power, there was a sudden and unexpected power surge. The surge led to a massive explosion and a subsequent fire that tore the reactor apart, releasing vast amounts of radioactive particles into the atmosphere. The explosion was so powerful that it blew the 1,000-ton safety cap off the reactor. The fire, fed by the reactor's graphite moderator, raged on, spewing radioactive smoke for days on end. As the sun rose on that April morning, the scale of the disaster was becoming apparent. The workers at the power plant, the firefighters, the first responders, and the residents of Pripyat were all unknowingly exposed to lethal doses of radiation. Many of them would not live to see the full consequences of the disaster. Despite the catastrophic events of that night, the true magnitude of the disaster was not immediately understood. It would take days for the world to grasp the severity of the situation, and even longer to begin the massive cleanup effort. In the early morning hours, the world's worst nuclear disaster had begun. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, the plant's workers and emergency responders were exposed to lethal levels of radiation. The city of Pripyat, once a bustling home to the families of the plant's workers, turned into a ghost town overnight. The government, initially silent about the disaster, soon had to order an evacuation, but not before the residents were exposed to high levels of radiation. The once thriving city was now a chilling testament to the invisible threat that is radiation. Yet amidst the unfolding catastrophe, a group of brave individuals stepped forward, putting their lives on the line to prevent further disaster. Firefighters, unaware of the deadly radiation, battled the nuclear fire, their gear woefully inadequate for the task. Their valiant efforts, however, were not in vain. Their sacrifice bought precious time for the government to start the monumental task of containment. The solution was a colossal concrete structure, aptly named the sarcophagus, designed to entomb the ruined reactor and halt the release of further radioactive material. Thousands of workers, now known as liquidators, toiled in shifts, each lasting mere minutes due to the extreme radiation. Each brick, each rivet, each bead of sweat was a testament to their courage in the face of an unseen enemy. But the price was high. Many of the plant's workers and first responders suffered immediate health effects. Acute radiation sickness claimed many lives, while others battled severe burns and injuries. The hospitals, ill-prepared for such an influx of patients, struggled to provide care. It was a battle against time, against an enemy that was as relentless as it was invisible. Despite the valiant efforts, the immediate aftermath was only the beginning of a long-term catastrophe. The Chernobyl disaster had immediate and devastating effects, but its shadow would stretch far into the future, affecting millions of lives and changing the course of history. This was just the beginning of a story that is still being written, a story of courage, of tragedy, and of the indomitable spirit of humanity in the face of adversity. As we delve deeper into the aftermath, we find that the Chernobyl disaster was far-reaching and devastating, affecting not just human lives but also the environment. The immediate response was the evacuation of Pripyat, a city that was once home to the workers of the plant. However, the evacuation was not immediate. The residents were exposed to high levels of radiation before the government ordered the evacuation, turning the bustling city into a ghost town overnight. The health effects on the liquidators, the brave men and women who worked tirelessly to contain the disaster, were severe. Many of them suffered from acute radiation sickness, with symptoms ranging from nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe burns. The long-term health effects were equally devastating, with a significant increase in cases of thyroid cancer and leukemia among the survivors. Meanwhile, the population of the affected areas, unknowingly exposed to high levels of radiation, also started showing signs of health issues. Children were born with birth defects, and there was a noticeable increase in cancer cases in the years that followed the disaster. The invisible enemy, radiation, had silently infiltrated their lives, wreaking havoc on their health. The environmental impact was equally devastating. The surrounding areas, heavily contaminated with radioactive material, turned into a wasteland. One of the most infamous areas is the Red Forest, named for the ginger-brown color of the pine trees after they died from high levels of radiation. Despite being one of the most contaminated areas on Earth, the Red Forest is ironically home to a thriving wildlife population, including species not seen in the area for decades. The aftermath of Chernobyl was a testament to the long-lasting effects of nuclear disasters. It served as a stark reminder of the destructive potential of nuclear power, leading to significant changes in how nuclear power plants are designed, constructed, and operated worldwide. The ghost city of Pripyat, the Red Forest, and the health effects on the population are constant reminders of this disaster that will echo through the centuries. The radioactive cloud from Chernobyl traveled far and wide, contaminating lands and impacting lives far beyond the borders of Ukraine. As it rose and expanded, the radioactive cloud was carried by the winds, spreading across the vast expanses of Europe. Radioactive particles fell like invisible, deadly rain, contaminating vast stretches of land in countries as far as Sweden and the United Kingdom. This wasn't just a localized incident, it was a global environmental crisis. The fallout had a profound impact on agriculture. Crops absorbed the radioactive particles from the soil and the rain, making them unsafe for consumption. Entire fields had to be destroyed, and in some regions farming was banned for decades. Livestock too was affected. In areas where the fallout was heaviest, many animals were born with deformities or succumbed to radiation sickness. The radioactive particles didn't just poison the land and animals, but also found their way into the human body. Thousands of people across Europe were exposed to high levels of radiation, leading to an increase in cancer cases, particularly thyroid cancer and other health complications. Children were especially vulnerable, and many suffered from birth defects and developmental issues as a result of the exposure. The Chernobyl disaster also triggered an international response. Countries around the world offered aid and expertise to help manage the crisis. Scientists from various nations came together to study the disaster and its aftermath, contributing to our understanding of nuclear safety and the effects of radiation on the environment and human health. This tragedy spurred changes in nuclear power plant design and safety protocols, making the world a safer place. Yet, despite all the efforts, the scars left by Chernobyl are still visible today. It serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of nuclear energy when not properly controlled. The Chernobyl disaster was not just a Ukrainian tragedy, but an international one. It was a wake-up call to the world, highlighting the need for stringent safety measures and international cooperation in dealing with nuclear incidents. It was a lesson learned at a heavy cost, but one that has undoubtedly shaped our approach to nuclear energy today. Even as the world continues to grapple with the long-term effects of the Chernobyl disaster, it's important to recognize the enduring legacy it has left behind. This legacy is multifaceted, influencing policy, science, culture, and even tourism. In the wake of the disaster, nations worldwide have reevaluated their nuclear policies. Safety protocols have been tightened with a heightened focus on the prevention of such catastrophic failures. The disaster spurred innovations in containment and cleanup technologies, a necessity given the ongoing efforts to secure the Chernobyl site. The sarcophagus, a massive steel and concrete structure, was erected to enclose the damaged reactor and limit the spread of radiation. Later, it was replaced by the new safe confinement, a massive arch-shaped structure which is the largest movable land-based structure ever built. The cleanup efforts continue even today, with workers still managing the site and scientists monitoring the radiation levels. The legacy of Chernobyl also extends into the realm of culture. The disaster and its aftermath have been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and even a critically acclaimed television series. These works have brought the story of Chernobyl to millions, ensuring that the lessons of this disaster are not forgotten. Perhaps one of the most unexpected aspects of Chernobyl's legacy is its transformation into a tourist attraction. The Chernobyl exclusion zone, once a place of death and devastation, now draws visitors from around the world. They come to witness firsthand the power and the horror of the nuclear disaster, and to pay their respects to those who lost their lives. The legacy of Chernobyl is a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear power. It underscores the importance of stringent safety measures, the value of transparency, and the need for international cooperation in the face of such disasters. The shadow of Chernobyl may loom large, but so too does its lessons, echoing through the years and guiding us towards a safer, more informed future. More than 3 decades later, the shadow of Chernobyl still looms large. The long-term effects of the Chernobyl disaster are both far-reaching and deeply ingrained. It's estimated that the fallout from the disaster affected over 7 million people. The invisible specter of radiation has left a lasting impact, with increased cancer rates being one of the most disturbing consequences. Thyroid cancer in particular has seen a significant surge in the regions closest to the disaster, with thousands of cases linked directly to the radioactive exposure. Beyond the human toll, the environment also bears the scars of Chernobyl. Genetic mutations have been observed in plants and animals within the vicinity of the disaster. These range from changes in color and growth patterns in plants, to physical deformities and reduced lifespans in animal populations. These mutations provide a chilling testament to the power of radiation to alter the very building blocks of life. The contamination of land and water is another enduring legacy of Chernobyl. Radioactive particles were carried by wind and rain, tainting vast areas far beyond the immediate vicinity of the power plant. Even today, certain foods from these areas, such as wild mushrooms and berries, can still contain harmful levels of radiation. Perhaps the most visible long-term effect is the creation of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. This 2,600 square kilometer area surrounding the disaster site remains largely uninhabited by humans, a stark monument to the disaster. Nature has reclaimed much of this land, creating a strange, eerie wilderness punctuated by the skeletal remains of abandoned towns and villages. Despite these grim realities, there is a silver lining. The lessons learned from Chernobyl have led to significant advances in nuclear safety and have sparked a renewed emphasis on renewable energy sources. The disaster has also inspired countless studies and scientific research, contributing to our understanding of radiation and its effects on the environment and the human body. Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder of the devastating power of nuclear energy when things go wrong. Chernobyl was a disaster of epic proportions, a grim testament to the dangers of nuclear power. It was a catastrophe that shook the world, not just in its immediate devastating impact, but in the far-reaching consequences that continue to echo even today. Let's revisit the key points we've discussed. The scale of the disaster was colossal, with an explosion that released 100 times more radiation than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The immediate aftermath was equally terrifying, with countless lives lost and hundreds of thousands displaced from their homes. The global impact was profound, spreading radioactive fallout across Europe, contaminating water, soil, and air. The world watched in horror and helplessness as the invisible threat of radiation seeped into every corner of the continent. And perhaps the most haunting aspect of all, the long-term effects. The specter of Chernobyl still lingers in the form of genetic mutations, increased cancer rates, and the haunting, abandoned landscapes that were once bustling communities. The disaster at Chernobyl was not just a singular event, but a dire warning. a stark reminder of the enormous responsibility that comes with harnessing the power of the atom. It highlighted our vulnerability in the face of such potent energy and underscored the need for rigorous safety measures. The legacy of Chernobyl continues to remind us of the need for caution, safety, and respect for the power we harness. Thank you for joining us on this comprehensive exploration of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. We've journeyed through its secrets, its causes, and its far-reaching impacts. We've unveiled the struggles and the stories that have been buried in time. It's a part of history that should never be forgotten, a lesson that must be learned and remembered. If you found this video insightful and informative, we encourage you to dive deeper. There's always more to learn, more stories to uncover. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more related videos like this. Your likes and shares motivate us to continue our quest for knowledge and share it with the world. Help us spread the word about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Share this video with your friends and family, enlighten them, and let's remember together the lessons from this tragic event. Because remember, knowledge isn't just power, it's our responsibility. Together, let's keep the legacy of Chernobyl alive. Not as a symbol of destruction, but as a reminder of our responsibility towards the power we wield.